Hi guys, this is a video on price discrimination for economists and business studies students alike, whether you're doing A-level economics or undergraduate economics, anywhere around the world really, Econ 101 courses, etc. I've moved to the French corner, as you can see from my library here, to do this one. So the presentation will start in just a second. I'm just going to go through some of the basic issues that price discrimination brings up, as well as look at some of the philosophical implications. So it's a nice quick review with some pointers for you if you want to get some higher marks, as it were, in the tests, or just to have your brain buzzed as to why the price discrimination is part and parcel of economics and modern behaviour. Okay, thanks for listening. Cheers. So here's the presentation on, well, really learning to love price discrimination in economics. Now, we're always discriminating in life: who we are friends with, who we marry or who we live with, what kind of products we buy, what kind of house we live in. We discriminate because our values differ. We look at the world through subjective eyes and prefer some things over other things. Really, no two people are the same in that regard. Our incomes, our wealth, our tastes, our ambitions, our risk assessment, and our ability to negotiate the human world differ enormously. And that is the reason for trade in the first place. Now, this implies that price discrimination occurs when businesses and consumers create different prices for the same product or services. In other words, it's a market phenomenon that reflects the different willingnesses to sell and to pay. The differing willingnesses that we have to pay differing amounts for the goods and services on the market merely reflect our different perspectives on what is on offer and whether we want them or not, or whether we want to give something up for them, such as money. So price differences emerge on the market. This is why the price of the same products can differ in the same market location for different people and at different times of day. So, what are we talking about? Let's give some example here. Old people, old age pensioners may have price discounts. May get a double room discount if you're in a hotel. Lunchtime offers, student discounts, a happy hour discount for those that want to get drunk at 5 o'clock. January sales, loyalty cards, membership discounts. I get those with a membership I've got at a local Belton Woods hotel. We've got an off-peak membership, but we get 20% off the food menu. That's good. Bulk buying. Excellent. Off-peak discounts. Again, I use an off-peak discount for the gym membership. Early bird purchases. If we want to travel to London, for example, we can book 2 months in ahead and pay half the price and just a £5 extra for first class. Great. Love it. Buy two, get one free. We see this all the time in the supermarkets. Cheaper insurance for women drivers. Well, I think the European Union has actually prohibited that on grounds that it's actually gender or sex discrimination, which the market people would say, yeah, women drivers drive better, generally, statistically, on the mean, on the median, so we're offering them a cheaper discount than the men who tend to drive more aggressively. But the European Union said that's bad. Guess what happened to insurances? Women pay more. That's right. Overtime payments. That's another form of price discrimination, isn't it? Because if you're a labourer or a worker or a professional and you're going to put some overtime in, you're going to charge time and a half or twice the time, right? Now, you may see it as fleecing the supplier, but it's still a form of price discrimination. Now, there are different kinds. There are 3 kinds of price discrimination we're going to review. Type 1 price discrimination normally happens in one-to-one negotiating, in which the product or service being sold may be relatively high or unique, high in price that is, for instance a car or a house. So economists refer this as type 1 discrimination or personalised discrimination. Type 2 discrimination, on the other hand, is when product lines are discounted according to the quantities bought and sold. For instance, buying 3 for the price of 2 or bulk discounts for bulk buyers. Now, however, I would also add to the general format which is given in textbooks that this can also include bulk buying over time. For example, if a tenant agrees to a year's contract in a commercial or residential property rather than a 6-month agreement, she can negotiate a discount. I'll pay you $450 a month instead of $480 for a 6-month agreement, and often landlords are quite happy to accept that. Again, it's up for a little bit of one-to-one discrimination, isn't it? Type 3 price discrimination. This is the one that business studies students normally have to sink their teeth into. Type 3 discrimination, or market segmenting, is when companies or buyers seek discounts for their part of the market. For instance, Restaurants may offer discounts for students or for old people. In turn, consumer groups may produce discount cards for members to use in various stores. Likewise, we can also add the element of time to this segmentation. A different season or a different day of the week or time of the day all present different markets. And that leads to something really brownie point if you're writing an essay on this, but really exciting, that every market transaction takes place in a specific location and at a specific time. Of course it does. Like if you're at the till and you're buying your coffee or you're buying some bread, etc., or milk, it's at a specific time and specific location, isn't it? Accordingly, economic logic will take us to the argument that no two transactions are logically the same. We can't step into the same river twice in the market, as it were. As the old Heraclitus, the ancient Greek philosopher from about 2,500 years ago, said you can't step into the same river twice. I think one of his students said you can't even step into it once. So the molecules are going past. Same with markets. The transactions can only take place once. They're very specific. This also helps to explain why prices differ between people, places and time, because the markets are different. What all this points to is that both consumers and buyers may seek different deals in the market. Now notice I'm emphasizing both consumers and sellers here. Legislators and politicians unfortunately assume that businesses seek to divide markets so that they can increase their profits from the segments. Well, this is true. So I've got my off-peak membership because the hotel company said, well, there's not many people coming between, say, 9:30 in the morning and 4 o'clock, I think it is. So why don't we offer a discount? Wow, what's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with it. Consumers play the same game. Right? I'm in the market and I want to buy more of something or have a longer contract, I can negotiate. The market is the interaction of buyers and sellers. Well, technically it's the interaction of sellers or buyers and buyers, however you look at it. When I buy something, I'm also selling my money in exchange for a product or service. And when a producer sells something, it's also buying my money. Right? The economic equation of buyers and sellers or demand and supply is just two sides of the same coin. No pun intended there. Now, when a product is unique, such as a one-off purchase compared to a regular or bulk purchase, the discount or premium charge depends on the negotiating abilities of both parties, and that's what I'm just going to look at in the end of this tutorial. Each party may enter the negotiation with an idea of what price they wish to sell or purchase at, say a house. The range each has in mind may of course not overlap at all, so no deal goes ahead. Well, on the other hand, if they do overlap, that's when negotiating can proceed, or as Wittgenstein would say, the argument can start. Here's one where the seller wants a minimum of £250,000. Well, the buyer's only willing to go up to 200,000, so no deal at this stage. At this moment. Next week it may be different. The seller hasn't got any other buyers, so may start getting a bit more flexible on the price, and the buyer may stick at the 200,000 or come up. So let's have a look at a couple of weeks from now. The seller's actually gone down to 200,000. Okay, maybe a couple of years later. The buyer is now willing to put 250 into the project. Now they can proceed and negotiate. Now let's have a look at what this may look like in a demand and supply diagram. It's actually quite awkward to draw, because supply in this case starts at, if I just bring my arrow over, starts at 200k. No, my arrow's not coming over. And there's only one house, so under 200k, the supplier is not going to enter the market at all, right? So the purchaser, on the other hand, is willing to buy at 250,000. Up to 250,000. So the price is going to fluctuate between the 200 and the 250, isn't it? And it depends on the negotiating powers of both people here. Right? So the supply curve is practically horizontal at 200k and then it goes vertical. The demand curve is horizontal at 250k and then goes vertically down. Imagine it going down, because somebody buying a house is willing to take it for £1 or even nothing, of course, but up to a maximum of 250k, let's say, for this particular house. Right? Later microeconomic analysis uses something called the Edgeworth Box. Now, I'm modifying this because an Edgeworth Box uses indifference curves, or utility curves, with respect to two products and a budget constraint to see where these two people will haggle and negotiate. So I'm going to simplify this massively because I find it an entertaining little construction anyway. So let's say I'm willing to sell the house for 200,000. Alex is there with a utility curve expressing my preference, my utility or happiness that I would get from 200,000. And Bob, on the other hand, is willing to offer 250 max, but of course he wants less than that. Now I'm willing to move to the right, Bob is willing to move to the left, and let's say we eventually negotiate and our utility curves meet at a 220k, let's say. So I've negotiated, he's negotiated, and we come to an agreement at 220k. And just using, if you've done this in microeconomics at a high level, it's quite a simple way of looking at it, and I'm simplifying the diagram massively. But it's just saying, for people who haven't done this, that Bob and Alex have come to an agreement at 220k, where at that moment, at that location, regarding that particular house, that particular product, we're happy to exchange at 220k. Now a week later I might go, I could have got 240k, somebody's just come in and offered more, but I've already sold it. Hey, tough, that's life. There was a recent story that came from the Palestine or the Gaza Strip, I'm not sure where the graffiti artist Banksy had painted some entertaining graffiti, as he always does, on somebody's door. It was a wreck of a house. You can look this up on the news. Banksy, the Gaza Strip, or Palestine, I'm not sure which one it was. Anyway, the people who owned the house, it was an absolute wreck. There was just a doorway standing. Sold the door with this piece of graffiti on, done by the well-known artist Banksy, for $100 or something. I thought, okay, what the heck? But they didn't know it was Banksy. A year later, they did find out, or whatever, it was Banksy, and went, oh my God, we've been done. Well, no, sorry guys, you haven't been done. At the moment you sold it, you were happy to take the $100. That's the nature of exchange. We can regret it, but that was yesterday. Get over it, right? Move on. Just learn next time, okay? Yeah, it's a one-off opportunity. You missed it. We miss opportunities every day in our lives that we're not thinking about, we don't see, we hear things and just don't listen, right? That's life. Now, just to finish this off, in many respects, what I'm saying here, the one-to-one negotiating over a house, the type 1 price discrimination, or another large purchase, reflects what is happening in more regular markets that involve similar transactions happening many times. So it's the same thing. So whether it's currency purchases by the banks, which are billions of dollars trade hands literally every day, or coffee purchases by the commodity traders, down to the everyday purchases we make in the supermarkets, we are still involved in a one-to-one transaction because that's what happens when you're at the till. Whether there's room for negotiation obviously depends on many factors, such as, well, what's the queue like? Will the supermarket accept negotiating? Because it probably won't, because it takes too long. But the logic of the one-to-one negotiation does not disappear from type 2 and type 3 discounting, right? Now, is price discrimination useful? Of course it is. It aims to secure better deals for both the suppliers and the customers. But unfortunately, many non-economists are still wedded to an old belief that prices should somehow be fixed by law. You know, it should be minimum wage, a maximum rent. This is a thought that's based on the assumption of immutable natural prices, or really just interfering busybodies who aren't part of the market, who just think, I think you shouldn't pay so much for your electricity, I think it should be cheaper. And the answer to that from an economist and from anybody doing business is to turn around to those people and say, okay, you set up a power station, offer it cheaper on the market, and see if you can do a better job. Well, you know, it seems a bit of a hassle to do that, so I think I'll just forgo it and write to my MP and complain about the prices. Duh. The notion, unfortunately, fortunately, has been fully rejected by modern economics. There was the subjectivist revolution, or the marginal revolution, in the 1870s in economics, under Karl Menger from Austria, Leon Walras from France, and Stanley Jevons from Great Britain. Right, 0 point. Right, they pushed for the subjectivist review of economic theory rather than assuming that there are these immutable labour laws that defined wages, or the prices of things were based on what God said or nature said or the amount of labour in it. All that was absolutely rejected in favour of, hey, we come to the market with completely different views of one another and the products we're buying, and we're pretty discriminating people, right? That's what economics is about, and it's not a bad thing. We choose our spouses, we choose our partners, we choose where we live, we choose the house, we choose the books to read, we choose the TV programs to watch, we choose the YouTube channels to watch, etc., etc. We're pretty discriminating. Now, so the next time you're out shopping, enjoy discriminating between products. Try to get those deals as well. Okay? Thanks for listening, guys. This was about price discrimination. Not about gender or race or anything like that, so try not to get into some silly conversation about that. This is just purely price discrimination. Okay, thanks for listening and see you in another unit.